Canadian students face 3 problems. 1. Nearly 70% of students battle loneliness during school year, survey says, according to CBC. Few realized it was a national survey in Canada. 2. CBC used Generation Jobless to describe young people today as competing with those 20 years older with more work experience as new norm. Between 40% to 60% of jobs can be taken over by AI, according to IMF. These jobs are knowledge-based, what can be learned by reading and what can be found in public domain. But AI still can't yet take over jobs require practice to learn. 3. When I was student, cost of University of Toronto tuition was $4,500 per year. But College Tuition Compare said average tuition cost today is $9,500. More than double. So a tunnel free from infiltration from outside needs to be created to protect students from these problems. So graduating without debt, for what requires practice to learn and creating new jobs require only what they learned is possible. This can be done by leverage, what allows students to have power to achieve what otherwise cannot achieve. This is only possible if students can do 2 things. Fact check and collectively demand who made a mistake to pay for this mistake, resulted in drop in cost of tuition, so long as students agreed mistake was made. Students can find leverage they need for this by fact-checking what I went through to help them. So fundraising is needed to hire social media influencers, as without enough students asking for mistake to be fixed, leverage they need for the tunnel to be created for them won't exist at all. Please fact-check my story, the more the better. So you see invisible red line keeping me from what psychologists and professors supported me to do. A red line keeping lonely students from me hired to end their loneliness. This shouldn't have happened because Canada Research Chair Dr. Katrina Scott said my research on wisdom and loneliness in North America contains solid or super strong ideas that North Americans in general include psychologists and professors are blind to that can help move forward work on helping to end student loneliness. Psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson, who was coined most influential public intellectual in Western world by New York Times, said he agreed I found solution to loneliness in North America. If I could teach students this solution at university, why did Dr. Peterson give me idea to do fundraising and then supported me to raise $20 million, with relationship psychologist Dr. Jeff McDonald and social psychologist Dr. Roman Taffaroti, just so a place could be created where I can teach students the solution, back in 2015? What you should pay attention to is, in 2011, 2, Professors Drive John Verveek and Dr. Michelle Ferrari supported me to create a service to end loneliness at university, with Dr. Ferrari offered to pay half of the cost for this. Except university refused, by saying it didn't have money for it. But the fact that it did not let each student to pay $1 per year as alternative, can be viewed as a mistake or a decision made at the expense of students, as if lonely students could stay lonely for years without effective way to get out of loneliness. In 2018, Dr. Ferrari hired me to create and direct Social Wisdom and Relationship Science program, first program in Canada helping students to acquire wisdom and problem-solving ability for real-life problems like loneliness. Approved with signature for letting me charge each student $200 per month. But if university let me get hired in 2011, this price increase would not have happened. I could accept a delay in pay for my work, but I can't work for free. However, when this program was ready to launch, Dr. Ferrari and I were told, according to university policy, it can refuse to promote a program unless it has ownership of program I created. Except I was offered a total of a few $100s for what can receive $200 per month from nearly 70% of students. Students can use my story as a leverage to demand 2 things. 1. University pay for most of the cost for them to study in my program. A good analogy is students need to buy lunch on campus, but if university food buyer made mistake of not buying food when price was low, that is no reason to expect students pay $200 for lunch, after food prices increased. 2. Students can also demand university to give away a building for use as a school for this for a few $100s, based on precedent set by university. So students from other parts of Canada can have room and board when they come to study in my program in Toronto. As there is no justification for university to push away loneliness solution supported by psychologists and professors, what never happened in last 70 years in Canada, only to be leaving students with less effective solution to loneliness, by comparison. Unless what Dr. David Cook said was untrue when he was principal of Victoria College, that in Canada nobody needs to pay for mistake of other people, when student asked him what newcomers should learn about being in Canada. Just in case you wonder why I said my solution is not knowledge-based. According to Dr. Verveek, knowledge is not same as wisdom, as knowledge can be learned by reading a book, but wisdom is know-how, what is learned through instruction and practice, and taught through master and apprentice relationship, at least for wisdom traditions in West and East. This explains why most people have failed to learn solution to loneliness because they assume it is knowledge and so kept expecting convincing argument from me. Without realizing argument or theory is what you can learn by reading a book. But my loneliness solution requires following instruction to learn. Meditation is good example. Dr. Verveek invited me to teach students wisdom and Dr. Ferrari hired me for that. Wisdom is not same as philosophy because philosophy can be learned by reading book. Follow instruction is eventually what students will have to learn when they work for employer. A good example of wisdom requires follow instruction is, with cost of university to be $9,500 per year. How else can students find a better way to pay for a program created in university so university could pay for most of the cost for them to study in the program? And have new jobs created for those who master my teachings so they can teach the solution to other people in Canada? If you ask why do I need to do that? The answer is even though university decision maker asked me to create business plan teaching the university how to help students to make friend or get out of loneliness back in 2010, based on 8 years of my work at the time. I never received credit or job offer for that. Dr. Derek Allen said I was treated unfairly by the university, as he could not see my name on a focus group study, even when Dr. Jill Mattis told me the university conducted this focus group study to verify whether what I said is true about students felt making friends was difficult for them. If it could happen to me, then it can happen to my students. In order to avoid that, I will create new jobs to hire my own students, those who master my teachings and want to teach it to people in society. This won't be possible unless enough students demand university to pay for price increase of my program for students want to be in my program. The good thing is my students can find work in US, UK or Japan as loneliness is big problem there too. But what psychologist Dan Dolderman said is true on learning style of Canadians about cherry picking. If university decision makers could avoid it, students would be benefiting from 900 pages of my solution instead of one.